ahead with the sale. So Peter, could you take it from here for a while on those points in our approach and who we represent?
Yes. What Harry and I have been talking about and thinking about is that the public, of course, has a huge interest in this project, and in particular, the Middle Creek Restoration Coalition that was, as you all know, was formed some years ago and has been the moving force about getting this project going again. And it's and then also the Chi Council for the Clear Lake Hitch has vital interest in this project. Just to update you on that very quickly, the Clear Lake Hitch, for those who don't know, is a fish, a female about 13 inches long, endemic to Clear Lake, and that's on the verge of extinction. It is now listed as a threatened species by the California Fish and Game Commission. A petition that for federal listing was turned down in December, but a lawsuit has been filed to challenge that decision, and there's a pretty good likelihood, given the hitch's current situation, that that decision will be overturned and it will become listed as a federally threatened species. And critical to the, I'm talking about the hitch is Thule wetlands habitat. Thule habitat is just critical for the survival of these fish, because that's when the females spawn upstream, eggs are fertilized, the little ones hatch, and then come down in a couple of 2 to 3 to 4 weeks and go into tules, where they remain until they're about 2 inches in size. The tules are protection against predators for them, and they're critical. Over the years, there's been an enormous drop in the number of acres of wetlands in around Clear Lake. This project will restore about 800 acres of wetlands, including wetlands that are on the Buddhist property. So anyway, so I'm speaking on behalf of the hitch and the urgency of this project. And again, tying to the idea of what should be important to the Buddhists, because they said they've turned the project down because they don't want fishing and hunting on the property. Well, we're suggesting that preservation of the hitch might have higher priority than keeping people from fishing bass, but that's a subtext, if you will. The other big item that we think relates specifically to them and should is that the completion of the project will expand their 187 acres of combination of wetlands, open water, wetlands, and uplands to 1,650 acres, going from 187 to 1,650 acres. The third, and perhaps it's really first in value and should be, we think, to the Buddhists, is that Bloody Island will once again become the island it was in 1850 when that hideous massacre occurred. In the eyes of many folks, including myself, Bloody Island is a holy place. And the place was consecrated by the blood of those whose lives were taken. It is time now to get this project finished and restore Bloody Island to what it was and must be going forward. And so we ask the Buddhists to honor that and allow their property to be purchased so that it becomes part of this project and can go forward. Without their property, this project does not go forward. It's essential because of its location. It's where the outflow from this lake must occur. The project cannot be managed properly without it. So anyway, so there are numerous other benefits, of course, but those three, Bloody Island, the Clear Lake Hitch, expanding the wildlife preservation habitat, is what we, speaking on behalf of the public who is interested in this project, wish to urge upon and will urge upon the Buddhists as reasons why they should go forward with this project. We're not asking for the approval of this committee. We're not speaking on behalf of this committee, and I think that's important. On the other hand, if this committee has opposition or has reasons they think this is not a good idea, please say so. But this is a step that we think that we feel, speaking on behalf of the larger community, may be helpful in bringing the Buddhists around to changing their position to one that's in which they will cooperate with completion of the project. Back to you, Harry.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. A lot of people in Lake County know about this project, and that's not necessarily true of the Sino-American Buddhist Association. So if we can tell them, give them a general description of the project, I think that is gonna help a lot. There was discussion last month about there being an easement, making the sale conditional on an easement. And I had an interaction with the Army Corps, and that approach is neither practical nor desirable for the Army Corps. It would place that purchase as a non-standard estate, which kind of clogs things up. So I think in talking to this approach with Scott, there was three kind of things that can happen. One is, well, they would see the ease of just selling outright. The second approach was boggling things up with an easement. The third approach was eminent domain. But of course, we will not discuss that third option with the folks we meet with. Nor we've tried to stay away from the money angle, although the money angle might be involved. There might be a problem with the money involved in the sale, but that we're not going to approach that subject. We're just giving them a briefing on the value of the project and its communal importance. So I sent the answer that I got back from the Army Corps with respect to the easements to the committee, and it's fairly easy to see that it's a difficult complication to add onto the purchase of property for a project of this type. So we would go ahead with that if they're with or without the approval of the committee, but we wanted your okay and a sense of the other members of the committee as to the value of our approach.
Are there any questions from anybody on the board? Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, no, I think that having that conversation is good. I know we also talked about, and I apologize, I was looking at the maps and everything as you were talking, so I hope I didn't miss anything. But I know we talked about conservation district potentially. We are going to own every single one of these properties in the long run. And the idea is we don't want to mess up again and bring this back to what it is we're trying to solve. This is a needed long-term situation in the Middle Creek area to ensure better quality lake experience. To me, by creating some sort of conservation district in specific areas where people want us to ensure that certain things will not happen, I'm very happy to go ahead and make those things happen, because we're not buying it so we can sell it and develop it. We're buying it so that we can restore what was there originally, and we intend to keep it that way. So I think that if there's some demands that they have, let's bring back those demands and see how it is that we can apply that to make them feel more comfortable with selling the property to us. I think that this group needs to also, we've had some behind the scenes conversation and non-Brown Act violation, but we've had behind the scenes conversation about Bloody Island. And I think that we should maybe bring that to a more public conversation right here as to what exactly our intention is. It's very obvious that we're looking at buying Bloody Island. It's part of the whole process. But I think if people know our intentions, that there might be an easier conversation to have than if they don't know our intentions. Because it's such a sensitive place and such a historical significance. And so I don't think we can have that conversation today, but I think that it would be a good conversation to bring, because I think people want to know.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Peter.
addressing the first aspect about a conservation easement, just very quickly, there will be a conservation easement. It's an essential element of this project. It's a legal requirement, basically. What happens is DWR gives the money, of course, to the district to buy these properties, but the district must then give a conservation easement through a third party that holds that precisely for the reason of making sure that nothing is ever done with this property that isn't consistent with the reason that it's being acquired in the first place.
But
Well, just let me finish this thought.
yeah, sorry.
So the elements of that conservation address these kinds of issues. Now, there certainly can be conversations with some of the property owners, like these folks, about that conservation easement, but I think when you look at it and see it, and we have them in place in other locations, they are in place, and I'm sure Scott can speak to these too, but they're very tight. It's designed to make sure the project is what it is for conservation of habitat and other things. So that's something I think that could be offered to be shown an example shown to the Buddhists if they have that concern. That's the point that I'm making. There will be a conservation easement on this property.
And just to clarify a little bit more on my point, being the owners and knowing what the basic threshold is for what this needs to become when we finish purchasing all the properties and the conservation easement, we can also do other things overlay on top of that if we wanted to say that these types of activities will not occur here. We have some extra capabilities by being the owner of the properties. We can't do anything less than what the state is telling us we have to do, but we could potentially do more.
Again, I don't want to carry this on too long. The question is, who holds the conservation easement? And if you're talking about giving a conservation easement, which for example, the Buddhists or any other property owner is the holder of the easement, suddenly you're having to deal with them every time you're wanting to do something in connection with this project.
And so, I never said easement. I'm talking about like a district overlay of what can and cannot happen on certain parcels.
All right, well, I don't understand that, but anyway, that would need some further explanation as to what a district would be.
And maybe Scott can tell us if that's even a possibility or not, but I just see it as saying, look, you can't hunt here, and you can't fish here, boom. Here's a conservation district overlay on top of our GIS map of where certain activities cannot happen. That's what I'm thinking about, of what control mechanisms do we have as a county to make those types of decisions, which could help out with the selling and purchasing of these properties.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the question to add conditions of or conditions on the conservation easement that gets recorded over the property that prohibits hunting and fishing. I don't think that will be a problem. I guess my concern or my issue becomes, how do we enforce that? The water resources staff isn't going to go out there and patrol that and keep people from doing it. And I don't want it to just be something that we make this promise, we put these conditions on this deal just to close it, and then we don't follow through. I think another option is to work with the state to create some type of sanctuary, some type of, call it whatever you want, but some area that is identified as a place where no hunting and fishing is allowed. It gets posted, and it's recognized as something that or the state recognizes it, to where a fish and game warden would be the person that comes in and enforces that. And so we're actually looking at how do we create these things. There's several marine protection zones along the coast. We haven't been able to find anything that's inland. We have found numerous spots along the coast that are sanctuaries, and Fish and Game has the authority to patrol that. So we're working on it. But I'd like to be able to offer something to the Saba group that is actually something that is enforceable and is real, as opposed to, yes, absolutely, we can put conditions on that, but I don't know how on the conservation easement, but I just don't know how we would enforce it. And if they ask the question, how are you going to enforce that? I'd like to have an answer. And for just putting conditions on that, I don't have an answer for that just yet.
Would there be like a way, like, because I know there was a property over in Upper Lake, by Tule Lake, 5 acre residential parcel, and I was just looking at it for some other reasons, that it has like a wetlands reserve program. Is this something that's very similar to what's going to happen? It has like a U.S. Department of Agriculture warranty easement deed. Anybody that was able to purchase that project in the future would have to abide by this deed. Is that what we're looking at? Something similar to that?
Yes. Short answer, yes. It's a lot more complicated, I think, but yes, it's something similar to that.
Yeah, because there's so many limitations on there, and so I'm seeing that adding maybe what Supervisor Sabatier is talking about with the hunting or whatever the case may be. There's like, it's just like a conditions of approval type of thing that goes through in our projects. So I'm just asking for my clarity, but I know that Peter had his hand up. So go ahead, Peter.
I just comment, there's, I tell you, Tule Lake, by the way, I represented one of the property owners. The federal government purchased a conservation easement to, in effect, return that all to wetlands. And that's how that works. The government owns the conservation easement. The property owner still has the underlying property, but that's not that would be something that's not a good idea here in this situation. But I comment too, though, practically speaking, part of this property, if you look at the maps, you'll see it, will be part of the body of the lake. I mean, it does that, and you start to knock these levees down, and a big chunk part of it, as a matter of fact, in that, it's even has the waters up, it's in this area. That's where people fish for bass, folks. And are you going to say that, well, you can fish up to this arbitrary line somewhere across this body of water, but not inside it? The support of the bass fishermen is incredibly important for this project. And so I think there's a larger public interest to be thought about, rather than just the particular interest of that property owner at this time, a property owner who's, the thing about conservation easement, those kinds of things, is you're vesting in someone the authority to, whatever the authority is in that document. I think that this cannot be subject to those kinds of limitations. It has the entire project has to be treated in the same way with regard to hunting and fishing and all those things. And that's a very important constituency. You can't be, in order to buy this little piece, and it's little relative to the overall thing, be giving special concessions that interfere with our other obligations to a larger public. That's kind of my take on it. I don't think we need to do that, nor do I think we should.
Is there anyone from the committee that has any other questions, comments, or concerns, statements about this? Because I see we've had a couple hands up. And I seen it, what was that? The state of California to designated preserve might not be a time efficient proposition. Valerie, if you can unmute, you can go ahead and comment on that. Betsy, I seen your hand up, but you put it down. So if you want to go next after Valerie, then please join back. Valerie, if you wanted to unmute and help elaborate on that, that'd be great.
Well, because my career was with state parks, to designate something as a preserve for the state of California might take longer than this project has taken. I mean, it is probably not the most efficient way to go. The other suggestion is, for example, I mean, I represent the land trust, of course, but the Lake County Land Trust. is an easement can be put on it like that where the land trust monitors the land. And yeah, and they don't go all the time, but at least they could call in or, call whoever would be enforcing that if there was a violation.
Okay.
So a private entity taking the easement is another option.
Thank you. Betsy?
Thank you. Yes, I was just curious about that enforcement issue that Mr. De Leon spoke about, and I think he's got pretty much a clear idea. But yeah, having some responsible party invested in oversight of this, I think would be very important. It shouldn't be just you put up a sign and you're done. So
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, is there any other comment, or does anyone have any response or anything like that? Or
Yeah, I wanted to say that we're just going to open the eyes of the Sino-American Buddhist Association to the importance of this project and what it's all about. They would raise concerns and they would express interest in meeting with the county or the state to do something special. We don't have the right to, and we're not going to propose something special, a special easement or not, whatnot. We could say that there's a possibility of that, but mainly we just want to tell these folks what they're withdrawing themselves from. They're removing themselves from an important process. We need to make sure they understand that. They could also raise the question, say, well, what can be done? We can make vague suggestions, but as a non-governmental party, we're just filling them in with some information. The second thing is, if it's a money issue, we can't deal with that either. They'll have to raise that. We're going to discuss the value in terms of the ecology and flood damage reduction, and essentially also some spiritual elements about the Chai and also Bloody Island. But we're not going to talk about money. We're not going to talk about regulation, but we will be open to hear their concerns and come back to this committee and the county if it is a matter of them wanting an easement, of them wanting more money.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because it sparked something in my, and I mean, I don't even know if I'm speaking out of line or what, but for me, this is just something I feel. And so I'm just going to say it. Like, for them to be landowners is fine. Anybody can be a landowner, but when you really look at the realm of everything, at one time, the land just belonged to the land. The Native Americans that lived there, which is my ancestors, tended to it. And then it was taken, but they hunted from there. They hunted and fished from there. And so I think when I hear them saying, we don't want to see that, it's like, so you're kind of imposing, when you're talking about this area, you're imposing something that didn't even exist until you owned it. So I don't want to argue, but I just want to highlight that, it doesn't really make, I don't even know what the word would I don't even know how to put a word to it, but it doesn't really make sense to me as a person has ancestors from this area. Like, yeah, so I don't know. I just felt the need to say that, if that makes any sense. I think I think if they want to impose that, that's fine. But for me, I still kind of like struggle with the mindset of that. So I just wanted to say it. Yeah.
Well, your ramble went around the critical issue. It did.
Yeah.
And it has to do with, this is a big, huge, important communal effort. Are you sure you want to back off from it? That's all we're doing.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Real quick, the only reason that I'm saying what I'm saying today is in trying to make it as simple as possible for us to be able to move forward. Because if we can't move forward in the simplest of ways, there's no medium. It gets really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. And truthfully, I have to feel that as people of good faith, understanding it, what I think is they don't know these aspects of this project. They simply don't know them. And that's our approach, is to make them aware of that, what this immense significance is. and how, at least on our view, we're assuming that they share these same values. And that by doing so and recognizing and learning what this project means, that they will see, oh, we'll step up and do our part to make sure it happens. That's how we're approaching it.
I wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate you wanting to take on that conversation.
Thank you, Bruno. I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on this?
This is Marina. Oh, sorry, hold on. I'm so sorry. I have two computers going at once. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Not quite back yet.
Just one of me. Great. All right. So Dr. Lyons and Peter Windrum, are you planning on having this discussion face-to-face, via email, via phone, Zoom? What is your guys' plan? I'm just curious.
We'll reach out with an email to John Chu and ask him what venue he wishes to meet with us on. It'll have the skeleton of Peter's points that we presented today, but it will not be a long email. I'll just say we want to meet with you and make it clear that we're not the government, we're not a consultant, we just represent the public.
Great.
And
Okay.
can I just comment too? We haven't discussed this particularly, but I envision my own mind too, that we put together a booklet that has the backup documentation for these points that we're raising. And so they have something in hand to look at, to study, and tie in with our conversation, however that takes place. But it's going to be about an inch thick, by the way, just so you know. Maybe not that, half an inch. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Marina? Or?
Nope. If you guys need any assistance or getting anything, I know I provided you the correspondence that our consultants have had with Mr. Chu, but if you guys need anything from our end, just please feel free to reach out to me.
I wanted to commend Laura. Her communication with Mr. Chu was very professional and eloquent and very much to the point, polite, very professional.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Can I ask more questions on 4.1?
Go ahead.
I know that we've been asking a lot about the plats and legals. From what we were told last month, everything was completed and done and submitted. Have those been finalized and fully reviewed by the state?
Supervisor Sabatier, not hearing Marina jump in, I'm going to have to tell you, we're going to need to get back to you on that. I think that would have been a question that Celia would have answered, and we were just not prepared this morning to get that to you. But we'll get a response out to the entire group in the next day or two once we get that information. I apologize for not having it here this morning with we just don't have it. So, but we will get it, and we'll send it out via email to the entire group.
Okay, and if I remember correctly, the next step was the appraisal of the properties, and all of them were going to be done at once, as long as there was the appropriate right of entry or whatever is needed in order to do that. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to see that spreadsheet again, but I didn't see the names of Sealy or Oldham on that list, and that kind of surprised me because it's my understanding that there's been agreement struck. So is it possible to put that spreadsheet up again?
Yes, I have. So those names are not on the list because, again, I have the discussion plan with Jeremy. He has a few questions that he needs answered from our end to give us the most recent update. So I can go ahead and share that list again.
Yes, thank you. It would be helpful if you would.
1 second.
Let's see. So we're not seeing. And I think the other question, we're not seeing anything from having been done by Monument, not a thing.
Well, and that's the thing. So this list is not reflective of the work that they're being done. So I got an update from Jeremy this morning. I can read that update to you, but that's why we're having a discussion later this week. So I can, you know, group who he's had the discussions with. I know his appraiser has gone out and he's had discussions with landowners, but I don't know those specific names. So I'm getting those names from him to update this document. So just because Celia and et cetera are not on here does not mean that work is not being done on those. That's why I want to make sure I get that update. And as I shared in the email to the committee, this is a working document, so that this does not reflect the most current up to date. Because the last time we touched this, there's been more updates since the last time we've updated this document.
Marina, and this is not intended to put you on the spot at all because it's the frustration, but I just want to register my enormous concern that Monument has not performed. Has not, since day one, we've been frustrated about this from these folks. And compared to all that information you have there from Paragon, from Laura, first rate. That's exactly what we wanted and needed to know. From Monument, there is nothing. And it's inexcusable. And Mr. Chairman, once again, I would respectfully request that we insist that Monument show up here in person to this committee and account for what it is that they have done or not done. It's just unacceptable.
So when I speak with Jeremy, if the committee wishes, I could have Jeremy come to our March Middle Creek meeting if that's of interest.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal. I think that would be ideal. I can't really see if anyone else.
Yes, I vote for that. Of course.
Is there a consensus for that? It looks like I'm seeing now. I see everyone saying yes. Okay. Yeah, Marina, if you can arrange that, that'd be great.
I have a question about that process. If I may ask Director De Leon or Marina, what are your thoughts? I think that, because in my opinion, we should be holding our staff and our departments accountable for doing the work that needs to get done and asking them to, crack the whip on Monument to get it done, more so than inviting Monument so that we as committee members crack the whip on Monument. I get it that the accountability for our staff is based on the actual work getting done and accomplished by Monument, but I'd hate to, I don't know what the limits of that conversation would or should be. And I think that we should maybe just end the conversation with, please get us better outcomes for Monument. We need to know what's going to get done within the next 3 months, and it needs to get done. We've been asking for a calendar of events. We've been asking for, and they've also been waiting on us for certain things as well. For example, the plats and legals. I know that they weren't able to do any of their work until that was done. And so I'd hate to, I get nervous about the conversation. I don't disagree with you that I want to see better outcomes, but at the same time, we overall have been slow on the uptake for the plats and legals for reasons that has been told and presented to us. There was duck season was one of them. COVID, I'm sure, is one of them. Staffing is another, and so on and so forth. But I want to make sure that we don't breach the line of what it is that we should really be doing as committee members versus providing direction for our staff to go ahead and take that into their own hands. I want to make sure we don't have a conversation that is going to hurt rather than help.
Bruno, you're right. I should, let me backtrack and say I agree with you entirely, Bruno. That's the right thing. Maybe the added thing we would ask from staff is, if in as much as you're not getting cooperation from Monument, what do you recommend that we as a committee can do? Can we recommend to the Board of Supervisors that their contract be canceled immediately or something? But I agree with you, Brenda. That is that I withdraw my request that
Okay.
Monument send somebody here, even though I think, anyway, it's up to staff to decide.
Go ahead, Marina.
Thank you. And just to interject, so that's exactly what my discussion with Jeremy is going to be this week. So as we shared with them, Celia is not going to be with us anymore working on this project. And, Jeremy's response was, well, that's concerning. I was leaning on our expertise. So that's exactly why I'm having discussion with Jeremy. If him and his team cannot perform at the level that we need them to, especially now with this other hurdle that we're already dealing with, then that gives us the right, the county, since the contract is between us and the county, we can cut that off. We don't need to go to the board. If they're not performing and they're not meeting the requirements and obligations that we are paying them for, we're going to cut them off. As we've seen, Paragon has extremely stepped up to the plate since, Laura onboarded, and I'd be more than happy to open up that dialogue with Laura since they have been performing. So that is what my objective is with this discussion that I have planned with Jeremy, because again, we don't have time to kill. We have a lot of moving pieces, and if he can't provide us the expertise that we're paying him for, then I'm not going to continue on with this contract. Sorry if that was too abrupt, but
That was good, Marina. Thank you. Marina, do you think that, like hypothetically, if that was to take place, which is explained, would Paragon be able to take on the extra work or the extra projects that are listed on Monuments list?
Well, I'm not sure we can answer that question just yet, but I will tell you that the response that we got from the two different consultants when we announced that Celia was leaving, one was concerning, one was very positive. And Laura, you all have commented on the work that she's done. We're mindful of that. I think Marina did an excellent job being very politically correct in telling you what her objective is with her discussion with the consultant on this week. She has my full support. She and I have already had this conversation about the consultants and their the work that they performed and frankly their lack of performance. So we're on it, and I would not want to be in Jeremy's shoes this week. So I'm confident that Marina will get to the bottom of this, and we will do whatever it takes to move this project forward. And if that means modifying contracts and moving some of the scope from one consultant to the other, we're prepared to do that. And that won't be a problem.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Sabatier.
I'd like to look at this group at setting a deadline. If right now the plats and legals are done, granted, we need to get them approved. And we have a deadline coming up ourselves. And so we have to work within that deadline. We're lucky we got the extension already, or else it would be that much closer. But I believe our new deadline is June 2023. Am I correct on that?
that is correct.
I would like to say by July 1st, by August 1st, that all of the appraisals are done, because then there's still a process of actually getting everything accomplished after the appraisal. But I would like to set a deadline of by July 1st, can you get these appraisals done and over to Water Resources? Because it has to be done, or else we're never going to meet the deadline.
Right. That's fine. I mean, we'll work with that. We'll work with that date, and that's no problem.
And I'd love to hear from the other members, because I don't want to just say a date that doesn't quite make sense, but I just feel like we really need to reverse calendar from June 2023. How much time do you think it takes to negotiate and get things fulfilled? How much time does it take for the state to approve the appraisal? And how much time does it take to get the appraisals done? If we start moving backwards to try to really meet our new deadline, what does that date look like? I don't know. I'm just kind of pulling one out of the air, but I feel without providing actual deadlines that they just keep pushing.
Can I comment? I think we've been whipping a dead horse for a very long time, and giving more deadlines, giving more threats, giving ultimatums means nothing. It's not going to get any better. I'd say it's time to get on a new horse and ride and do it fast. And Laura can do the job. She's demonstrated that to my satisfaction. No deadline's going to make a difference with that monument out there.
Well, my opinion is we give the deadline to our staff.
Yeah,
And the
and
staff
that's
makes
what I was gonna say.
decision on
how- gotcha. Okay.
The way I'm reading this is I'm not giving a deadline to Jeremy. I'm listening to this as the deadline for me. So, and as I'm telling you, I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Because I agree. I agree with you. I agree with that. And again, Marina and I have had these conversations when we learned that Celia was leaving. You know, the first thing that we did was say, okay, how does this impact Middle Creek project and how are we going to solve this? And the first thing that she did was reach out to our consultants. So I'm all right as the director of the department, and you want to put a deadline July 1. I'm totally all right with that because I agree with that 100%. So, yeah, I think we're all on the same page here.
Okay.
And Peter, on the same page with respect to opinions on performance of consultants. So I don't want you to think you're alone here. You've got some agreement at this end.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. Any other comments or?
Well, just finally, Marina's probably really glad she doesn't have her video on right now because she's probably cursing me.
Absolutely not, Scott. No way.
With the video still off.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I agree. I just want to echo Director Scott DeLeon's support and just setting that deadline. I'm very deadline oriented, and that's a good deadline for us to meet. So we'll hit it and we'll meet it. No worries on that end.
Thank you, Marina. All right. So we can move on to 5, California Department of Water Resources.
Yes, I am going to go ahead and pass it over. We are joined today by our water resources accountant, Jacqueline Stores. I wonder if she is still on the call. She is.
I am, Marina.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So Jacqueline keeps us afloat in terms of budgeting, and Jacqueline has been working very, very hard for us. As requested by the last Middle Creek meeting, the committee was interested in seeing the balance of our remaining funds for our agreement 4600129946, which is our DWR agreement for the project. So I'm going to go and pass it over to Jacqueline.
All right, Marina, let me go ahead and share my screen. And let's do this real quick. Here we go. Oh, there we go. All right, so do bear in mind that this is still also a working document. There were a couple discrepancies with our previous account that I'm working out, but this is the up-to-date where our budget stands. And I think Marina was going to propose some requests that we were going to make to DWR in terms of allocations. Marina, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so as mentioned, I've mentioned a few times now that I am planning on moving funds that are associated with task 4, which is hydraulic mitigation. As you can see, we spent 0% of that. I don't believe we will be spending any of that, even with the new extended deadline, just because we can't move on to task 4 until we finish task 3. So my plan is to move those funds, at least part of those funds, because I don't want to give $1 back to the state with this project, is to move some of those funds and just reallocate it from task 4 to task 3. I've had very premature discussions with DWR on that idea. It seems like they have no issues with that. I just need to get it in writing, and we'll have to do an amendment. So I just wanted to pitch that back out there. But as you can see, that we have lots of funds in task 4 that we are not going to touch most likely. And I would like to make sure that we are able to utilize those funds. So just doing some reallocation.
Thank you, Marina. Did anyone have any specific questions about where we stand?
This is Peter. Quick question on, I don't remember what groundwork is.
Groundwork, that includes relocation, demolition, cleanup costs.
Do we have any sense of what, at this point, of what that might cost?
Marina, do you have something to add to that?
No, so Daniela Cazares, program coordinator, is coming up with a budget right now, a draft budget and timeline for that groundwork. I anticipate we'll be using a good portion of that, as a lot of things are up and coming with our maintenance, et cetera, and moving things around. So Daniela is working on that, and we'll be able to present that at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I seen there's a question that asked about tasks that are involved with item 4. If I think from Corolla Kennedy asked that in the chat.
Yes, Corolla, I don't have that current agreement in front of my face, but what we are going to do is we're going to put that agreement on the website. Once that is on the website, I will go ahead and respond to everyone, because I want to make sure everyone is aware of what tasks are associated with, so what subtasks are associated with each of these tasks, including the hydraulic mitigation. So Corolla, I can respond to you and the rest of the group with those tasks, and then point to you when that agreement is on the website.
Thank you, Marina.
Question.
Go ahead,
So
Supervisor.
I see that we've barely touched the property maintenance. We've barely touched the groundwork. And of course, there's a 10% contingency. As we progress through the acquisition of properties, are any of these tasks or headings able to be moved around for the best use to complete the project?
Yes, so for example, if we pursue reallocating funds for hydraulic mitigation to a different task, we can do that with others as well. I'm hesitant to really touch on the property maintenance and the groundwork. Just as we continue to purchase these properties, we're gonna have to be doing more maintenance. And again, Danielle is working hard on getting that maintenance plan scheduled. So we have a pump that we are in the process of fixing. And then we also have some demos that we have planned, for example, that are going to cost a good chunk of money. So I'm hesitant on moving funds from any other task that we have here besides 4, as we continue and purchase more of these properties, that more groundwork and maintenance is going to have to be completed on.
Right. And that's it. That's why I was saying, as we progress through it, where there might be a different comfort level depending on if we're 90% of the way done and we need some extra money and there's money to be found in certain other tasks. Because I agree that moving it now is not probably going to be the best and smartest move. But I just wanted to know and understand if all of these segments can be moved around if necessary and needed.
Yeah, and from my understanding, they could be. It's going to be interesting to see how this process goes. So we haven't reallocated tasks with this specific grant. Of course, each grant is different. So I'm going to be curious to see how that process goes, especially at the rate that we have been working with in terms of DWR. So if it's an easy peasy lemon squeezy process, then yeah, as we move forward, let's continue to do it. Even so, that's one thing that, I'm appreciative of Jacqueline working on this budget, and we're going to continuously come back to it. Just to make sure that we're keeping an eye on this budget and that we are utilizing all of these funds by our new deadline of 2023.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Betsy, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, EJ. Yes, I have 2 questions. I don't know if this is the right moment or if it's going to come up later, but is this funding inclusive of the PG&E power stanchions or whatever that problem is?
No, I don't believe that these funds would cover that, Betsy, just because these funds are for willing sellers. And this is completely encompassed of the acquisition process. So these funds can only be used for the purchase of these parcels that are located within the Middle Creek project area for willing sellers.
Okay, so is there discussion today about that PG&E issue?
We do have an item on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on item 8. We'll be going over that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Betsy,
Okay.
did you have another question as well?
I think that was all.
I'll wait until you get to that other discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else that has any questions? I'm not seeing. I don't see any. So.
All right, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you for Thank you, Jacqueline. Okay. Not hearing anything else. It looks like we will move on to item 6, project area property maintenance. Marina.
Yeah, so I just gave a brief update. Again, Daniela Cazares is working hard on coming up with a draft timeline and anticipated budgets associated with the property area maintenance. As we stated, we are still interested in pursuing game cameras out in the project area. There has not been as much illegal dumping, which is exciting. We have been making more of a presence. Our team actually created a ArcGIS map. So we track all of the hubs of the illegal dumping that takes place in the area. So the more that we've been out there, the less illegal dumping that we have seen. As we can imagine, there still is some illegal dumping. So we work very closely, our team internally, and then major kudos to Fish and Wildlife and then Public Works as well, who helps us identify some of those issues and areas of concern. The biggest projects in terms of property area maintenance that we're working on is restoring that pump on the rice farms, the rice fields out there that are leased by Mr. Steve Jones, and then also working on the demo of the Torrance individual property. So Daniela was able to get a few quotes, and now we are working in terms following the county purchasing code ordinance and procedures and policies on getting that area demoed. So we should be getting that started here in the next month or so, I would say. So by next meeting, we should have a good update on that. But that's the only property that we are in the process of pursuing the demo right now. So there's the main.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you for that, Marina. Let's move on to I heard someone say something. No, that was feedback on my computer. We'll go to Army Corps of Engineers. I think, Harry, go ahead.
Okay, so this month I was involved with a conversation over the conservation easements with Dylan Van Dyne, and that was in January and February. I'm going to frame a letter of intent for calendar 2022. I need from Marina the latest DWR quarterly report, and I have the map, the property map, and now I've got this new spreadsheet. So I want to condense some updating for our letter of intent, and I'll present that to the committee on our next meeting on March 7th. And we can get it signed and sent back to Colonel Handora, who is the commander of the Sacramento area Army Corps of Engineers. So this is a yearly process. So February is the month that we'll get this done, and I'll present it to you in March.
Okay. Thank you, Harry. Any questions?
So Marina, Marina, if I can pester you for the latest DWR grant report, that's what I need.
Yes, and Dr. Lyons, I will get that to you early this week. And then I also just wanted to confirm, so since I'll be having a discussion with our team at Monument, do you want me to update that document and send you the most updated document? I can get that updated by the end of the week, or
yeah, that would be great.
All right, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything in Supervisor Sabatier? Okay. Item 8, PG&E, and I have an email that I'll share with you all. I have it right here. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. I spoke with I had a conversation with Melinda Rivera on, I think it was the 12th or the 13th of January, right after our meeting. And I asked, I think it was basically 4 questions she came back with, and I could send you all this email as well. I think Supervisor Sabatier was sent to CC on it. And one of the questions was design work from the Army Corps Does any one agency need to complete design work for the others, or is there any type of beneficial sequence for each agency to complete design work? The comment was PG&E understands and appreciates the benefits of this project and the county to the community. PG&E can proceed with design work, and as part of that design process can reach out to U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and to Caltrans. Once the county is ready to proceed with the payment on deposit for this design work, PG&E can initiate the design work for relocation of equipment as part of the project scope of work. And then we asked, can the transmission lines be footed in water in the wetlands? If so, what depth of water can the transmission towers accommodate? Would the county still need to move forward with design work and relocation if the towers can accommodate a certain amount of water? And they stated the construction has reviewed this proposal and has determined that the towers should not be in the water. In addition, our crews would require 24/7 roads to each tower for access and maintenance. PG&E would need to relocate these towers if the levee was to be removed in the area subject to subsequent flooding. The current towers have not been constructed with needed footings to accommodate this type of flooding that is anticipated. And let's see. Can the distribution equipment simply be abandoned as idle facilities if this 18 customer meters are no longer in the project area and have been removed? They stated idle facilities could apply for those individual customers. However, the main distribution line along East Lucerne cutoff would need to be designed, engineered, and constructed so that it is no longer in the project impact zone in order to continue to provide power to the communities in Upper Lake and Lakeport areas. And then the last question that we've been waiting for quite some time was, what would PG&E do if the levees were breached? What would PG&E's fiscal obligation be at the time of replacing and relocating its equipment? If a declared disaster such as a levee breach were to occur, PG&E would repair its equipment and restore service. And it is anticipated that PG&E would seek to get expenses for this work reimbursed by application to the Catastrophic Events Memorandum account. And there's I think a little link to it. And so what I'll do is I'll forward this email to all of you. And Bruno, you were on the meeting with me, right? When we talked to her?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was I guess the most we've ever got about the question if they breached, because that was one of the $1 million questions, if you will.
The part that I don't like, and we've had the conversation before, I think this is not the first time PG&E has told us that, is that it would require bridge access or road access to all of the transmission towers. And that just adds a whole other level of difficulty on how do you make that happen, ensure the historical flows come back. It's quite a large, complex situation. That I think, again, once the Army Corps has a construction design completed, that PG&E will better understand what they can and can't do. But I think that they might actually be the more difficult obstacle than Caltrans.
Yeah, I heard a comment in there too about an all-weather road or access to the towers. That'll be a problem.
Yeah, let me.
That kind of blocks what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna forward this to all of you right now so that. But yeah, that was the discussion. Let me see. Okay.
Yeah, I could just comment very briefly that is a much, much more detailed, expensive proposition than what they initially agreed to on when this project was first done. They talked about wooden bridges, if you will, walkways out to the towers. They talked about essentially extending the footings up and elevating the towers was the essence. Now they're talking about new towers. I mean, this thing is hugely different and vastly more expensive than what was initially agreed to.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what Betsy Kahn's question was regarding PG&E.
Hers was about funding. Betsy, do you want to readdress your question when it comes to PG&E?
Thank you. No, I just really wanted to know where this stood with the PG&E towers, and you guys just explained it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Work in progress.
Yeah, I've been talking to her quite frequently. I talked to her this week as well about something else. Harry, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm wondering where the money for the catastrophic events application, is that a state office?
I'm willing to bet it's probably a CPUC thing.
Okay. So if nature is the one that breaches the levees and it happens before the planning step of the US Army Corps, then the deep pocket for some form of these towers would come from the catastrophic events money. So, that's not too bad. That's probably one little tiny ray of sunshine that there is money.
Now we need to figure out what natural breaking of the levees is actually defined as.
Well, that's the case of beer and the case of dynamite, I guess. I don't know.
Harry, here, let me share this real quick. I just went to the link real quick, just right when we were talking. I sent you all the email and you'll be able to hyperlink it too, but this is where the link she tagged to that statement that you were asking just now. So I think.
Okay, there it is. Yeah. All right.
Right here.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, so just wanted to share that briefly so we all are on the same page with what she shared with us, and so we know.
And that is through the CPUC.
Okay. There you go, Bruno. Good job.
All right.
And then Mary Jo asked, would it be less expensive to go along Highway 20?
The hard part is if it goes along Highway 20, then it has to come back down Highway 29, and they're going for the direct line to Hartley substation. And so it would add a whole lot more. They're trying to go with the fastest, most direct route to their substations. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's definitely a more pricey request for them to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Does that cover PG&E for now? Betsy.
Thank you, EJ. This isn't about PG&E, but there is one other big sort of undiscussed aspect of that recovery, which is the tribal lands and the the flooding of the highway and so forth on Highway 20. Do you guys ever talk about that?
Go ahead, Supervisor Sabati. I see you shaking your head.
We have item 11 as Caltrans, and that's one of the only reasons that we are having that conversation. There's multiple reasons. There's a small bridge that we need to build at the bottom of Nice Lucerne cutoff to make sure that the new historic flow comes out where it's supposed to. And then there's either a seawall or an overpass of sorts that needs to be built along Highway 20 where the 100-year flood zone actually goes into the Robinson Rancheria parking lot, I believe, and EJ would know better than me.
Right, and then with the parking lot, I know that they've talked about doing a pump. There's been a lot of different ideals when it comes to this, and I don't know, it fits because they were going to do a pump to pump the parking lot because it naturally will flood. It's below the level it would be. Anytime there's a rain, it floods big time, and so they also were talking about filling the parking lot and then repaving it so it fits. And then I know that one of the things that halted the project back in 06, 07, 08 is the fact that the tribe didn't like the fact that there was going to be another levee, a ring levee around. They said, what's the point? Yeah, I know that was their comment, but also it was a different leadership at the time too. And I think that it just kind of somehow fell off, and it.
And the ring levee is something of the past now anyways.
Yeah, right. So I don't know if that answers anything, but.
And it's another one of those that until we have the construction design done by the Army Corps, it's really difficult to get what is Caltrans going to do, because they're going to have to look at the design and then make a decision of what's the most cost-effective way to keep protecting the highway, things like that. And so it's going to have to be a collaborative approach to the design. We're going to have to make sure to get feedback from Caltrans and PG&E and others to ensure that the construction design is going to work for everyone involved that has to deal with changes. But until then, I doubt we're going to see any movement because, yeah, it's not the smart way.
All right. With that, we'll move on to legislative, item 9. Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
So I wanted to check in with Marina. We were waiting on timelines to be able to submit that over to Aguiar Curry's office in order for them to be in the know of the kind of timelines that we've been seeing in the checks coming out, reviews for appraisals, things of the kind that we had discussed last month. Just kind of wanted to put that back onto the front of your mind, seeing if we can get those so we can go ahead and send that over to at least John Ferreira, who would then absolutely share it with Aguiar Curry. But just because they are the ones who helped us obtain that extension, to keep them in the loop as to the struggles that we're having with our timelines.
Yeah, so I'm working on that timeline. I apologize, I don't have it for this meeting. I had a slight hiccup in terms of getting the check from, just as a reminder, we did end up getting that check from DWR. The whole reason why we were gonna approach our friends at the legislative level was because we did not receive that check from DWR, which we ended up getting last minute. The title company was able to get that. So we were able to utilize the funds from DWR to close the Mountain Nose property instead of having to use the emergency check that we were able to get from the county. So I will work on finalizing that timeline, and I will be able to get that to Supervisor Sabatier and then Supervisor Crandall by the end of this week.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good work.
And then one more thing on legislative. I know that Congressman Thompson definitely is aware of the project, but it was not in his jurisdiction, at least until now. He will not officially be the representative of the entirety of Lake County until after the election is over. The redistricting maps have been approved, but the actual representation doesn't change until the election is over. But I still think that we need to initiate stronger communication with Thompson's office, at least given the quarterlies and things like that as well, just like we were doing before with everyone else.
And I briefly I seen Brad, I think it was Friday, just kind of covered a couple things with him, and that Middle Creek being one of them, and he was familiar. So yeah, just wanted to keep that like just in his mind that that's one of the things we're working on too. So yeah, I think getting all that together would be great, and I'm glad that it's probably been going on since he represented there before, so he knows.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Any other comments about legislative? All right. Project funding. Item 10. Do we have any updates, Bruno? Go ahead.
Sure. At this time, I think we're waiting for further steps being taken. I think right now we're just focusing on the acquisition of properties. We do know that for PG&E to do their part, it's going to cost us about $200,000. I think as we approach the construction design being done by the Army Corps, that we've already allocated those funds, that we can go and maybe start discussing at that point the allocation of $200,000 for PG&E's portion to do their design. But at this moment in time, I don't think we need to go any steps further unless others feel we should. I'm comfortable with what we've allocated thus far.
Okay, any questions or comments? And I'm not seeing any. So from either public either. So we'll move on to Caltrans. Did we cover Caltrans? I mean, I know we is everybody okay with moving forward? Because since we covered a lot of Caltrans, I mean, just kind of went right into each other. Really good. Like it when that happens though, because we get things done. All right. So moving on from that, public expression. Anybody can speak for 3 minutes if they have public expression or they wanted to add something or talk about it. And I don't see anyone raising their hand. I know last time I brought up public expression talking about the Robinson Rancheria, and I was told by the EPA director to go ahead and table that for now. He doesn't want to push that issue for now for whatever reason. I didn't get to ask him why. He just said if we could just table that. Maybe they're rehashing on what would be the best interest for them. I don't know, but just to let you know that he's asked me to table it. So we'll move on from there. There's no.
I do have a question / favor. EJ, I'm going to let you make the call on this one, but I would like, as I spoke earlier, but there was no consensus, and I just want to bring it back. I think that Bloody Island is kind of an elephant in the room. We know what we're dealing with. We know the sensitivity of it, and I would like to have a conversation on Bloody Island in our next meeting, unless you feel that we're not at that point to have that conversation.
I think it's a good idea only to start getting the dialogue going right now, rather than, kind of like letting it kind of be a festering thing to wait till it comes. We can approach it. I have some knowledge of the area too that can, help with the discussion in it. For example, we call it Bloody Island because that's what we know it as, but the tribal name for it is Badunapati, which is like a creek between, what it's an island, is basically what it is for the people. And Napati just means like a village. Island village is what it means. So from calling it one thing to another, thinking about that, of course, when you think about the landmark, you know that gathers the attention. But when you really think about it in spirit, when you call it Island City, that kind of takes away the controversy part of it per se. But I know we don't want to forget, of course, what happened, and we always want to know that that's what it was. But I know from perspectives of people, elders, community members that are Native American from the local area, they've talked about wanting to call it what it was called before Bloody Island. But not saying we have to or anything. I'm just giving you that insight as to how the name of it makes sense. But just wanted to shed some of that, but that would be a good discussion to have. Maybe tribes can come, because of course Upper Lake, Scotts Valley, and Robinson were have ancestry from that area, that were a part of this situation. And of course, there's probably about 12 villages amongst these areas that all pretty much were centralized to either Robinson, Upper Lake, or Scotts Valley. So.
And I just feel like it's such a sensitive subject, and people are curious as to what's going to happen. And I think that we can really provide reason to take part in the project if we share and show our appreciation and sensitivity to the history of City Island. I mean, it's just, it sounds better to call it that than Bloody Island. That sounds horrible. But again, like you said, not to be forgotten either. So I think it would be a healthy conversation for what it is that we're trying to do, because I think it can help with getting people interested in, as we discussed earlier with the Buddhist property, to understand what is our end goal and what are we trying to do. Because we've always talked about how there's this cultural aspect to what we're doing, and I don't know that we've truly discussed what is our plan.
Right. Betsy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, EJ. A couple of thoughts. One is maybe you could get Dr. Parker to do a presentation similar to what he's done on the subject of the Kelseyville and the massacres and so forth. He's done all that mapping. He's got all that of the different villages in the area and how the groups interacted. And the second thing is, I sent Harry a picture, and the idea comes to my mind that, like you're talking about educating the Buddhists and so forth, but it would be kind of nice to have a map that would show how the thing is going to look when it's done. So some general idea, a cartoon even, that would give the public just a really easy to see concept where you could call Bloody Island the name that it was, and you could show how it fit into the world of the native users of that lake. The way the lake was actually used to begin with, and that's just a thought.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that.
Yeah, this is a photo that Betsy sent me, and it's a shot from a plane. The plane is flying over the lake south of the Nice Lucerne cutoff, and it's very informative. And it's kind of depressing because it's a much better shot than an idea of what's going on there than satellite photography. So in some ways, we've stepped back in technology. You see this picture from this rickety old plane, and it tells you more than you can get from right overhead. So I will send that to you.
Okay.
We need a cartoonist then, I guess. We need someone to do this cartoon. It's a great idea. Let me see if I can find.
Was that the 10% contingency?
Yeah,
There we go.
no, that would be great. See if we can find somebody.
Just kidding, Scott. Just kidding.
So no, that's all good. The way to engage the public, that drawing that we have of, here's what the project's supposed to look like. I'm an engineer. I've been an engineer I've been an engineer most of my life, and I don't even have I have a hard time reading that stupid map. It's just not good. But something that, and you call it a cartoon, but a drawing that is pleasing to look at, that shows you what the vision is and what this thing could look like. For generating support, I think would be really, really helpful. I don't know if it's something that would fit in any of our funding sources, but yeah, we can certainly take a look at that. We had some work done just recently for the South Main Street Soda Bay Road project, where they did some renderings and things to show what that project was going to look like. I don't know, if that's the direction, but I have a vision of some kind of drawing that might be something we could put together.
All right. Betsy, I see your hand still up. Did you have something else, or?
Sorry, I forgot to take it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, one of the things I'll do for sure is, I think I could talk to Dr. Parker as well, or someone of that nature when we have this discussion. Something that summarizes or kind of gives the aspect when we decide to have this discussion that you were talking about, Supervisor Sabatier, or when we decided to talk about it. What does it look like? What does it look like? All the tribes around the lake, or you want to just focus on the ones that are? Because I know that I know that they'll support, for example, I know Big Valley will support the idea. However, some of them may be connected somehow to people that have ancestry from Badunapati, but so and then because of the style of governance now that are in place, tribes will take more of a territorial dispute over it, which it's just the way of the world, I guess you could say. So I know Upper Lake and Robinson definitely have both ties to it, and Scotts Valley will claim the same. And so there's always an equitable approach to these things. And I think we've talked about this before, right? Supervisor Sabatier, like who would really be the tribe to take it over or whatever. And that becomes controversial at times as well, So yeah, I don't know, that's just putting that dialogue out there with it as well.
Would you mind having a dialogue offline so that we can prepare that agenda appropriately?
That's what I'm saying. I can do so. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I want to make sure it's done right too. You can't just open it up for conversation without really setting the platform up correctly.
Yeah. Peter.
Just to comment very quickly, in lots of the literature that you read about this event, it's referred to as the Clear Lake Massacre, which is a better terminology, I would suggest. And again, trying to steer away a little bit from this Bloody Island thing, but just it's the site of the Clear Lake Massacre on the island, and I haven't learned to pronounce it yet. EJ, you're gonna have to more.
Badunapati.
Badunapati. Thank you.
Badunapati. Yeah. That would be just the simple way to explain it. I'm sure that I'm sure I'm not even pronouncing it accurately.
Well, yeah, we're all twisted tongues.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I just tossed that out because I read it, and that sort of was appealing because the graphics are otherwise pretty hard. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so I'll make sure I make that have that dialogue with some folks, and then I think next steps for committee presentation to the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, I know that we've discussed a few times of going back to the board. It's been quite some time of providing an update to the board and the community on our Middle Creek project. We've had lots of exciting milestones that we've hit. Of course, we had to go before the board, in terms of appraisals, et cetera, purchasing. So we've had a few dialogue there, but I would like to give a greater presentation of the overall project scope, next steps, and most importantly, how folks can remain informed and involved in the project. It's great that we do have a lot of engaged stakeholders that listen in on the discussion, hoping to get some more. So would like to get a date, at least on the calendar, so we can start getting going and preparing that presentation. So I'm looking at least March.
Chair, I apologize, but I need to get going for my next meeting. Happy to make that work, whatever date you choose, and I apologize for jumping ship right now.
No worries.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Spatier.
So what day were you looking at, Marina?
Sometime in March. I have the calendar pulled up here. And it looks like we have every Tuesday is a board meeting except the 29th. So that could either be the 1st, 8th, 15th, or 22nd.
Let's do the 22nd. Give you some
Perfect.
time.
That's great. Does that work for Harry and Peter? I would like you guys to help with that presentation if possible.
That's fine with me. That works for me. Did I put yes, thank you.
Yes, that whole week proves that I'm a man of leisure. There's nothing in the calendar. So.
You scared me when I was like, oh man.
All right, so then we will have it slated for March 22nd for doing an update. I will touch base with Dr. Lyons and Peter in the next week or so, if that is okay, so we can discuss next steps for that presentation.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So with that, we know our next meeting is March 7th. So we'll have a little bit more time before that meeting, our next Middle Creek meeting. So we'll have a little more time when we need to, decide to throw something in there or whatever. I don't think we will. But other than that, if there's not anything else, thank you for a good meeting. Sorry for going 3 minutes over, but try to keep it going, and good work. And we'll see you guys later.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, EJ. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Peter, let me call you later. I know we were supposed to talk last week.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that'd be fine. Anytime. I'm available.
Okay.
Anytime. Thanks a lot.
I'll call you after 1.
All right. Good.
Thanks,
Thanks.
CJ.
Thank you.